This year's recipient has taken her role and the celebrity status she has worked so hard to achieve, leveraging that status to help others. She refers to herself as an actor and human rights activist, and that is an understatement. This year's recipient has built a storied acting career. She is one of very few who have won consecutive Tonys and consecutive Emmys. Many of us may remember her from her starring role in the hit series Who's the Boss, or her moving portrayal of Jeannie White in the Ryan White story. Her continued passion for taking on interesting and cutting-edge roles has her now starring in the new hit series Transparent. Again, opening hearts and minds in the process. A star who is also a hero is born out of the use of the stage. This year's honoree is truly a heroine. Her decades-long sustained and expansive commitment to AIDS and other human rights causes reflected in her resume is far, far too long. It was 5 pages single-spaced. Today, she serves actively with many AIDS and human rights causes, including Broadway Cares, Equity Fights AIDS, the NAMES Project, the National AIDS Memorial Grove, Centers for Disease Control, Business Response to AIDS, Labor Response to AIDS, Hollywood Health Society, Project Angel Food, the Matthew Shepard Foundation, the Point Foundation, the Ryan White Foundation. And if you're like me, when I saw the countless organizations she serves, I asked myself the question, is she an actor or an activist? Well, it's really clear. She's both. Please help me in welcoming to the stage the 2014 National Leadership Recognition Award honoree, Ms. Judith.
Goodness me. Oh, I thought maybe I would be emotional at the end of the day, but now you've all started me at the beginning. Thank you, Tom, for that incredibly beautiful acknowledgement and welcome. And Paul and Rick, I am so honored to be honored with you both today, and I'm grateful to be here and to be once again among the circle of friends. It's always incredibly moving for me to be back here at the Grove, where we are enveloped in this natural cathedral, which at the same time echoes our sorrows and elevates our souls. This is truly a holy place, a place that manifests our deepest losses as well as our fervent hopes and our unrelenting determination. The theme of today's World AIDS Day 2014 is So Their Stories Will Be Told. And there are many here today who remember those stories, who remember the height of the AIDS pandemic. The stories of power and leadership and inspiration and courage and sorrow and the creation of a family and the creation of a community, a powerful community of magnificent leaders. Today is a remembrance, a reflection, an appreciation of those who have passed, those who are still fighting to survive, and those who continue to help in the fight, a fight that is still not over. When my dear friend Tom Wayne asked me many months ago if I would accept this honor, I hoped with all my heart that my schedule would allow for me to be here. And I'm so delighted that I am able to join you, new and old friends. I have this feeling that Tom on the other side had a little something to do with rearranging my schedule. He is one of my heroes, one of our community's greatest leaders, a true inspiration to me and others. He lives on in my heart, and he is, I am clear, with us today in spirit, as I'm sure his wonderful husband Terry will attest. This recognition means a great deal to me, because it is this community that taught me about leadership. It was this community whose story of courage in the face of bigotry and divisiveness and lack of support and homophobic responses from the government and the world that became the leaders we all know. This community that rose like a phoenix from the ashes. This community that made people like myself want to participate and be a part of this generous, caring, powerful, loving people. It is this community I believe that the world needs to look to for leadership. This leadership was forged in the fire of those that struggled to live, those that stormed the FDA for the drugs they hoped would save their lives, the lesbian women who supported their gay brothers, the drag queens who delighted and uplifted us as we rode our bikes in the AIDS ride so we would keep going, those in the bi community with their infinite support, and those in the transgender community who brought their whole, authentic selves to the fight. And those people who created AMFAR and Broadway Cares Equity Fights AIDS and the Gay Men's Health Crisis and APLA and Project Angel Food and God's Love We Deliver and Treatment Action Group and on and on. Those people whose lives and stories we tell so that their leadership is not forgotten. And it was this community that told those stories even as they buried their dead. Gave eulogies, made hospital visits, held benefits for organizations that would feed and care for their friends, held their brothers in their arms as they lay dying because their families had disowned them for being gay, and found ways to remember and promised never to forget. The community that gave us Paul Manette and his powerfully moving book, Borrowed Time, and AIDS memoir, and Becoming a Man, Half a Life Story, for which he was the first openly gay person to win the National Book Award. And Paulie said, "If you mean to visit any of us, it had better make you strong. Take your languor and easy tears somewhere else. Above all, don't pretty us up. Tell yourself, none of this ever had to happen. And then go make it stop with whatever breath you have left. Grief is a sword, or it is nothing." And it was here in San Francisco that began the story of the Names Project, the AIDS Memorial Quilt, and the film that tells the story of its creation in common threads, and the filmmakers who told the story of San Francisco during the height of the pandemic. In the film, We Were Here, and the city that gave us Armistead Maupin and his brilliant tales of the city. And this town that created San Francisco AIDS Foundation, Project Open Hand, Mobilization Against AIDS, REAF's Help Is on the Way San Francisco Cares event, among many others. And the people who created this grove to memorialize our fallen heroes so that their stories would not be lost. The stories that were told in other films like How to Survive a Plague, and The Band Played On, and The Normal Heart. And yes, we must continue to tell these stories, not only so that our friends and loved ones are not lost, but also because AIDS is not over. In 2004, when I came to speak here at the Grove, I said some things that I think bear repeating again today. We are here together to blend into a single human organism with a unified voice that cries out in anguish at our losses, bellows our righteous fury at what has been allowed to happen in our nation and around the world, and shouts our intention to rally the forces needed to once and for all turn around the course of this pandemic and prove ourselves to be the honorable, infinitely resourceful, and caring people we both claim to be and want to be. Most of all, we are here to remember. We are here to remember because in remembering, we defy the constraints of reality. Those who have been lost are no longer lost when we remember them. The stunning talents and the beautiful humanity that were cut down in their prime and whose fruits were never given the chance to ripen cannot be totally lost as long as we stop to remember. Memory is the flame that keeps a life from being extinguished. I encourage you now to open yourselves, to be washed over with remembering. Remembering the loved ones that no longer walk with us and whose embraces we so achingly miss. And as we reflect on remembering, let us remind ourselves of the importance not only of remembering people, but also remembering what we know. There is a question that is as important today as it was 10 years ago, particularly now that our young people are serial-converting at such an alarming rate. As leaders, we must ask this question: when will we act upon what we already know? We must find ways to take what we experience here today to lead, to find ways to communicate our sorrow and loss, and tell the stories of the beautiful people, the people who did not hold themselves as victims. We are still in need of leaders who are motivated by principles and vision. What works is to have the humility to recognize that despite all we have done and all we have experienced, we have still not found a way to communicate to people that takes them to a level and to a place they have never been or never experienced. And we thank God and the medical community for the protease inhibitors and all the life-saving medications, but we must find a way to communicate to our youth that leads them to avoid unsafe behaviors and to value their lives above all else. We stand on the shoulders of those who have come before, those who have led the way, and those who are still leading us. We must take strength in the remembrance of their stories to continue to create a new world and ground ourselves in our connection. It is World AIDS Day, and it is vital that we connect to the whole world. So to you, who are my inspiration, my leaders, together here in this holy place, I ask that you remember that we are one humanity. And as we remember those we lost, by remembering them, they are no longer lost. And I look forward to the day when we are functioning fully as the enlightened beings we truly are. And the day the world looks to this community, to see how to lead a movement and the world. And I look forward to the day that AIDS is over. And we come here to the Grove simply to tell our loved ones that we led and thank them for teaching us how to lead. And they will rejoice and be proud. Thank you.